I'm going to show you a little bit about what it means to shoot in a RAW format and then spend most of the time talking about how to adjust white balance in the Apple Photos app. So what does it mean to shoot in RAW? Well, the thing to remember with a digital camera is that because it's digital, it's storing numbers. The sensor sends out a stream of numbers for every one of the pixels. There's a 3-number pair, and each of those numbers is processed by the camera and either stored on the memory card or through an algorithm converted into a JPEG image that's stored on the memory card. If you look over here in my file folder, you'll see that the RAW format file is 11.6 megabytes, whereas the same image in JPEG is only 1.9 megabytes. In other words, it's 1/10 the size of the RAW file. So what that means is that by using JPEG, we actually throw away 9/10 of the data, and that's permanently gone. There's no getting it back. It's what's called a lossy codec. It means that the data is reduced and eliminated completely. There's no getting it back. So shooting in RAW allows you to have 100% of your data, and you get to decide what you want to keep and when you want to get rid of it. Whereas with JPEG, you're letting the camera decide what gets kept and what gets thrown away, and you're never going to get it back. So a lot of times, if you're taking photos that you really want to preserve and have the most options to edit later, you want to shoot in RAW if it's at all possible. Even though it does make for very large file sizes, you have all your options still ahead of you, whereas if you shoot in JPEG, the camera has made decisions for you that you're never going to be able to change. Over here in my Photos app, I've loaded up some photos that I took earlier today of a piece of white paper. These photos are all the same piece of paper in different lighting conditions. So if I look at this one more closely, this is outside in a very clear day today, very direct sun. You can see the colors are very clear and crisp, and it makes this plain white piece of paper look very white. If you look at this photo, which was taken the same day, just moments later, but in the shade underneath the trees, you can see that it looks very different. It's gray. It has a little bit of a green cast to it because it's reflecting the light off of the green leaves of the trees. This photo was taken in the concourse on one of the sofas, one of the benches there. And you can see that the piece of paper in the concourse looks very tan and almost yellow-brown. The lighting in this particular situation is bouncing off of the upholstery of the sofa and causing that white piece of paper to take on a very different color. And then this photo is taken under fluorescent light in the outside office here, which fluorescent light is a very unusual lighting color, and so this has sort of a tan color to it, but at the same time it looks a little green. Especially you can see here in the background of this photo, the carpet is green, so there's some green light bouncing around in this room, which the paper is picking up a little bit. So this is to say that the same piece of paper in different lighting conditions shows that we have different colors actually going on around us all the time. The colors are coming from the various aspects of the environment, the trees, the sky, the paint on the walls, the carpet on the floor. And if you're talking about artificial light, like light bulbs and fluorescent tubes, they have a certain pattern of wavelengths that is unique to them depending on what kind of light they are. So artificial light in these two cases versus natural light in the first two create a whole set of parameters that might be an issue when you go in to edit the color in your photos. So I'm going to go into the first one here and open it up into the edit window, and I'm going to adjust the colors of this perfectly white piece of paper to show you what's possible. So in photos, As we've seen before, we have light adjustments, color adjustments, and the ability to make photos look black and white. If you click up here where it says Add, you can add the white balance settings, and then you'll have some new parameters that you can adjust. If you click that arrow, it'll bring up the adjustment tools, and then if you go to temperature tint, you'll have the basic temperature and tint settings that'll allow you to adjust the temperature of the white balance and also the tint of it. So if I drag this adjustment tool left and right, you'll see that the colors of the handle change according to the temperature. The further I drag it to the left, the bluer. The more blue it gets. The further I drag it to the right, the more yellow it gets. So we call this yellow cast a warm color, and this blue cast a cool. So we have warm colors and cool colors. And through adjusting that temperature, we can create different effects with the way that the color in the photo looks. And then if we go down to tint, we also have warm and cool adjustments with the green and the red. So this one was taken outside in a clear, direct sun. It really doesn't need white balance correction, so I'm going to revert to the original. But I'm going to go in and look at the next one, which is more green and gray. I'm going to go in and adjust the white balance on it. So I'm going to add white balance, choose temperature tint, and open up the adjustments. So I want to make this a little bluer. So I'm going to drag the handle to the left. You'll notice where it defaults, it's in a different spot. And I really don't want it to be that green. So I'm going to pull it just a tad into the red category. I can make that piece of paper look a little more bold, white. I might need to go in and do some other things like adjust the exposure because it was in the shade. But really I'm just talking about white balance here. If you want to see what it looks like without your adjustment, just click that little blue dot off. So that's the color adjustment off of the camera in RAW, and then this is with my adjustments to make it look more blue. So this is another way of going in and dealing with contrast, cast, and saturation, which can be used in complement with these color adjustments, or it can be used instead of. Revert back. So I'm going to show how this works then with an actual photo. So here's a picture that I took of one of the Principia trucks that's white. It's in the shade, so it's going to be like that second card that's going to have a bit of a green cast to it and also a bit of a gray cast. I'm going to add the white balance. Go to temperature and tint. Make it a little more blue. Just a little. Sometimes you don't need to do much. And notice how the default setting is way over here on the red side. I really don't want it to get any more green. Maybe a little more red, but not much. Most of this picture needs is just a little more blue. But now this is, of course, an aesthetic decision, and if I wanted to make maybe some sort of an Instagram look on this, I might actually want to warm it up a lot, because a lot of the Instagram looks are trying to replicate vintage film looks, which over time film gets more, usually more warm, in other words more yellow. So if I want to make this look like a vintage photo, I'm actually not going to go for the realism of a more blue look, but actually go over here for a more yellow, a warmer look. Maybe turn up the contrast a little bit, pull down the shadows, pull up the contrast. Black point's another way to really make the photo look a little more like film. Another thing that a lot of the Instagram photos use is what's called vignetting, so I'm going to add that. So if you go up to Add, hit Vignette. Vignetting is this shadow created by the edge of the lens kind of missing the sensor. Well, actually, in the old days, it would be fall off of the ability of the lens to transmit light around the edges. So you can make it stronger, make it more prominent, change the radius so you can see how it's actually making a circle of shadow and increase the softness of the edge. So there's a lot of adjustments around vignette, creating different looks. But now I've added a vignette which will help me get into that ballpark of Instagram looks. Warm it up some more. I'm going to make it even more, let the fall off even bigger. Crank the black point some more. Turn up the contrast. Maybe make the shadows a little darker. Alright. Oh yeah, that's it. So mainly with white balance, you've got temperature, warm and cool, tint, warm and cool. You can use it to manipulate the photo in creative ways, or you can use it to make the photo match more to a real authentic look. So that's it. Have a good week. See you. Bye.